and they're booby-trapped. Many of the bodies have been booby-trapped. So it's a very, very dangerous and painstaking operation, 1 week on.
Saka already knows that their teams are suffering extreme psychological stress. Their families have been briefed to pass up the line if their loved ones are behaving abnormally. Humanely retrieving the very people who carried out the attacks is itself tough to do.
Is it difficult to actually recover the bodies of Hamas men who carried out the massacre?
It's very difficult for us when we know that each of them killed our brothers and sisters and tortured the people, and that's what they came in for, that, and still we have to handle it.
What's clear is that the Hamas rampage of terror here changed from location to location. Sometimes they just murdered people, but when they had time, they tortured, maimed and killed men, women and children. The killers' bodies are removed by a bulldozer. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Southern Israel.
The extremely traumatic work there of body retrieval. Well, the ground offensive may not have started, but the front line of this conflict is already intense and dangerous, as we found out earlier, travelling down to the Gaza border about 1 kilometre away. So we just arrived on the border, or the near border with Gaza, and instantly came under rocket fire, taken out by Israel's Iron Dome. They say it has a very high accuracy rate, of course. A week on Saturday, the problem was the number of rockets that were fired from Gaza. You can see the smoke in the distance, though. The northern part of Gaza is still coming under Israeli attack, but certainly we hit the deck pretty rapidly with the rockets going over our head. We're told that it happens quite regularly, may well be pushing into those towns not far from the border area, and even to the coastal towns as well, Ashkelon and Ashdod, which have certainly come under heavy rocket fire from Gaza last night and today. But as you can see, the situation in Gaza, the smoke still rising from those buildings which have been targeted by the Israeli Defence Forces, the Israel Defence Forces, who've been targeting by airstrikes, and certainly on the way down here, passing through those towns that are now pretty much deserted, places like Sderot, which came under an evacuation order earlier today at about 11 o'clock local time to clear out anybody who's still here. There are the troops massed, the Israeli forces that have been massing, waiting for the go-ahead to enter the Gaza Strip. Well, coming next on our programme, a vigil for Israel has been held in central London. We'll have the latest from Parliament Square.
When an accident happens, especially a serious accident, now that person is put in a position where they lose hope. They don't know what their rights are. They don't know how they're going to pay for their medical bills. We address each one of those concerns. So it's our job to make them feel good, to give them some hope, to give them some peace of mind. So when they leave our office, and they've retained us, they're leaving in a much, much better position than when they walked in. Call Habas & Associates today.
Hi, I'm Scout, and it's party night. Charlie's using his West Credit Union app to pay his friend back for the pizza. Yeah, me. A few months later, whoops, and a chance encounter meets the romance and a road trip in Charlie's new car, financed by West. Whee! And with West digital banking products, they'll be well prepared for the journey ahead.
West Credit Union, working for you today, tomorrow, together.
Announcing the Fortune
Store Morgan Hill's Dare to Compare event. We are challenging you to compare the all-electric Ford Mustang Mach-E to the Tesla Model Y. We are so confident you'll choose the Mustang Mach-E that we bought a Tesla Model Y for you to conveniently test drive both vehicles at our dealership. So come compare both EVs at the Ford Store Morgan Hill and check out our large inventory of Mach-E. Plus, drive home a new Mach-E for $9,250 net savings. All of this only at the Ford Store Morgan Hill.
Check it out. It may not be music to your ears, but as long as it's music to theirs, bring the volume back to the venue with exclusive ticket access to unmissable events. One of the many reasons you're with Amex Platinum.
So I'm going to, right? Coming on the air with breaking news. We are live tonight from Juarez, Mexico, reporting over the skies of Lahaina. Here in Florida, the time to evacuate has come and gone. You were seeing people just running for their lives.
People running for their lives.
We've seen this almost unbelievable power struggle. What does this mean for Ukraine? It's the battle off the field that's inspired the world.
Every night, it's your news playlist. Top Story with Tom Ellis. Streaming weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. Stay on top of breaking news and the biggest stories of the day with NBC News Daily.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Morgan Radford.
I'm Vicki Lynn. I'm Kate Snow.
And I'm Zing Glasnow.
Get in-depth reporting from across the country
We have breaking news out of the White House.
and around the world,
Questions about the rebellion inside Russia.
and ways you can take care of your health
There are symptoms that people should be to look out for.
and your wellness.
Some really great last-minute deals if you have flexibility.
NBC News Daily, weekdays from 12 to 4 p.m. Eastern on NBC News Now.
Hundreds of people gathered at a vigil in central London today to commemorate the Israeli victims of the conflict. It was a vigil to remember and mourn the 1,300 Israelis killed and the 126 taken hostage during the Hamas attacks of the last week. It was organised by community leaders and religious groups who called on the hostages taken into Gaza to be immediately released. One of the speakers at the event spoke on the importance of community.
Today we are making space to come together as a community, Israelis, Jews, and allies, to mourn, to support each other in this hour of need, and to pray for the safe return of all those who were kidnapped. We deeply mourn all lives lost in the past week.
For more on the conflict in technical news as Israeli forces prepare for an expected ground assault in Gaza. We'll be here in Jerusalem with the latest. And next up, Trevor Phillips on Sunday with the Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, who visited Israel earlier in the week.
Hi, Monkey Lavender.
Morgan Hill, your #1 retail volume 4 dealer in the entire Bay Area. Come experience our everyday low bottom line sale prices clearly marked at over 400 vehicles. Right now, get a new all-electric Mach-E for $9,250 net savings. Or lease a new F-150 Super Crew STX for only $329 a month. Or purchase a new Bronco Sport for $31,598. Or a new full-size Bronco for $47,385. Only at the Ford Store
No,
Morgan
of course
Hill.
not. For you.
New storage has a storage unit to fit your needs. Conveniently store anything. Storage units in a wide range of sizes. Month-to-month leases, free reservations, free truck rental for move-in, free use of shelving, storage supplies on site, air-conditioned, climate-controlled storage available at some locations.
we address each one of those concerns. So it's our job to make them feel good, to give them some hope, to give them some peace of mind. So when they leave our office and they retain them, they're leaving in a much, much better position than when they walk in. Call Pappas & Associates today.
Audible is the best place to listen for everyone. For story people, comedy people, curious people, and people who want something new right now. Audible has the best of what you love. Try Audible today.
News lives in the now.
The front lines are still very active. A lot of the stuff that we're seeing was left behind by Ukrainian soldiers.
Now is real.
This is like quicksand. And officials say that an entire town is cut off.
Now is raw.
This close to the devastation, you actually understand why people had to jump in the ocean.
It's the most craziness regarding all that life.
I was trying to survive.
News for the generation of now is NBC News Network.
Water has grown leaps and bounds. You see behind me is typical day.
Pretty bad.
It is 1 week since Hamas terrorists brought death on the Sabbath. They brutally killed 1,300 people in Israel and still hold at least 100 hostage. Now, the people of Gaza are bracing themselves for Israel's imminent retaliation. More than 2,000 are already dead. Here at home, tensions are rising. Some Jewish schools have closed their doors in fear. It's hard for everyone to take a step back from these tragic events, to lower the temperature, to seek out the light rather than the heat. But our job as journalists is not to join in the point-scoring and the finger-pointing, but to try to add to your understanding of this dreadful conflict. So let's start by finding out the latest news from the region. A short time ago, I spoke to the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly. Foreign Secretary, many of our viewers will have relatives and friends in Israel and in Gaza. We know that there were British hostages being held by elements of Hamas. First of all, let's just start with where we are now. As far as you know, will the Rafah crossing out of Gaza into Egypt open any time today, any time next couple of days?
Look, it's incredibly hard to say with any certainty. I've spoken on a number of occasions with my Egyptian counterpart. We stay in very close coordination with the United States of America, with other friends in the region, and of course with the Israeli government as well, trying to coordinate a time window when the Rafah crossing can be opened so that people can leave. That is proving incredibly difficult. So I'm not able to say with any certainty when that crossing may be.
What about the hostages? There are British citizens amongst the hostages. Do we know how many?
Well, again, one of the real challenges, and I'm not comfortable implying that we or indeed anyone else has certainty on this. The Israelis, when I spoke to them, when I visited Israel, are still having the terrible job of identifying those people who have lost their lives, trying to track down who is still missing. We know there are British nationals amongst the dead, the wounded, and probably amongst those who are captive. But at this stage, it's not possible.
I know you can't say exactly, but we're given to understand that there are at least 10. Is that a reasonable?
Well, again, I mean, that is not an unreasonable estimate of the kind of number of people that we're talking about. But again, I'm really uncomfortable implying that there is certainty where frankly there is.
I understood. I know you don't want to get into a place where people might be endangered and so on. One other thing on the current situation for Brits. The government's already laid on, I think, 3 repatriation flights. How many more do you expect?
Well, that will be, again, this is very, very dependent on circumstances. We're working closely, our transport department are working very, very closely with the Israeli air authorities about keeping airspace open. We are looking to maintain commercial flights and supplement those with chartered flights organised by the British government. The exact nature is fluid depending on the safety of the airspace over Israel.
Let's talk about the advice that you or counsel you may be offering to your Israeli counterpart, because in these situations, as steadfast as you might be in your friendship, one element of friendship is giving good advice. The Israelis say that they plan to eradicate or eliminate Hamas. Are you saying to your Israeli counterpart, this is a realistic objective? I mean, is that plausible?
Well, the conversations that we have had, and this is very much the tone of the conversations that I had when I was in Israel recently, is there is a feeling that they have got to secure that southern part of Israel from terrorist attack. They have to protect themselves from terrorist attack. Hamas has been a roadblock to peace for decades. They refuse to be part of the Oslo Agreement. They completely reject a two-state solution. They consistently call for the eradication of the state of Israel and the targeting of Jews around the world. And Israel clearly feels that they have got to permanently protect themselves against terror.
I understand the reasoning. What I'm wondering is whether anybody seriously thinks that's actually a realistic goal.
And Trevor, you're right that friends speak honestly with friends, and we have a very, very good working relationship with the Israeli government. And whenever I have spoken to them, I've reinforced the UK's position about the preservation of life, the avoidance of civilian casualties. I know the Israelis completely understand that. President Herzog has said their operations will be in accordance with international law. And I've said that it is in Israel's interest to avoid civilian casualties and Palestinian casualties, because Hamas clearly wants to turn this into a wider Arab-Israeli war, or indeed a war between the Muslim world and the wider world. And none of us, including Israel, want that to be the case. And so that's why we do give that strong advice from a position of pressure.
And in that strong advice, would the word restraint figure?
Well, I've said that restraint, discipline, these are the hallmarks of the Israeli Defence Force that I want to see. And indeed, those are the hallmarks of a high-functioning military organisation, which the IDF is, in stark contrast to the terrorist atrocities perpetrated by Hamas. And I've said, maintain that clear distinction. Israel seeks to avoid civilian casualties. Hamas seeks
no, that's
in order to target.
I think that's Sky News.
Our
That's what
government's
it's called.
position is full support for Israel, full support for military action, but we are urging restraint.
If you mean what I'm watching, that's
I think
news.
that is a pretty good synopsis, because of course we respect Israel's right to self-defense. They experienced the most horrendous terrorist atrocity, which is still being perpetrated. Images of people being held, images of bodies being desecrated are still sloshing around on social media. So of course they have every right, and we support this right, to protect themselves. Whilst doing it, we've said do everything you can to minimise civilian casualties, do everything you can to prevent Hamas getting what they want, which is this to escalate into a wider regional conflict.
You're a military man yourself, and you will know much better than I do about the exigencies of the battlefield. Nothing's going to be perfect. There's always chaos and so on. However, all officers are tutored and told clearly that there's law, there are ethics and so on. I want to ask you about that. Are there limits to what you as a government will support in Gaza? Given your in principle support, but is there a red line that would cause the UK government to suspend, withdraw?
on this issue, supporting Israel, making sure that the United States has Israel's back. He said there are no divisions. And he said the Senate is not going to wait for the House to get its house in order, that the Senate is going to move ahead to try to pass, at least in the Senate, an aid package to Israel. Of course, before that could get to the president's desk, Bill, it would have to pass the House. And we all know
tell your mom
the House
thank
cannot even
you,
bring up
Emma.
a bill, let alone vote on one, until Republicans figure out this mess with the speaker, until they get a new Speaker of the House elected.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan spoke with Martha Raddatz about finding American hostages, and Sullivan said he couldn't confirm an exact number of those being held by Hamas in Gaza. Has the White House said anything specifically on this, or if they even know where to look?
Yeah, he said that there's 15 unaccounted for Americans. That was as of this morning. But he did say that they don't know yet if those are all 15 who are held hostage, or some who maybe have already died but have not yet been identified. He said that there is no higher priority, he said, for this president than getting those American potential hostages home. But the reality is, he went on to say that the reality is they don't know where all of them are. They don't know if the locations have been moving. He said they don't have a pinpoint location for all the potential hostages, and this is obviously such, like you were just talking about, and that's a changing and dynamic situation. There's fears that the hostages could be moved, fears with these airstrikes, if that's putting potential hostages in potential danger. This is absolutely a priority and a big part of why we're seeing this diplomatic push. Secretary of State Blinken, obviously on his long list of agenda items, is trying to lean heavily on some of these regional partners who might have better lines of communication with Hamas.
They're saying no higher priority, as you just reported, but I'm wondering, is there any gauge on how high the confidence is that they'll be able to find the American hostages and other hostages as well being held from all over the world?
Hard for me to know. They've been very careful to not give a lot of details. I even heard the senators today say that they worry if they talk too much about this, they could hurt the work being done to bring hostages home. I wouldn't say that there's been an expression of a lot of confidence, but we have seen this White House work very aggressively to get hostages and political prisoners home from other parts of the world recently, make some pretty big deals to get Americans home who are sort of detained elsewhere. So they know how to do this work, but this is an unprecedented situation. This is an extremely difficult situation, to say the least. So.
Absolutely. Mary Alice Parsons from the White House. Mary Alice, thanks as always. Coming up, continuing coverage of the Israel-Hamas war ahead of potential ground incursion. We're going to take a look and talk to our national security and defense analysts about what this might mean for the hostages that we're talking about being held there in Gaza. Just after this.
I wish for the amazing new iPhone 15 Pro. Junk!
Do you mean this one, the one with titanium?
No way I could trade this busted up thing for one.
Maybe stealing wishes from the birthday boy's not your best plan. Switch to Verizon and trade in any iPhone and get the new iPhone 15 Pro on them.
What?
Yep, and on an amazing network.
And I don't have to ruin any more birthday parties.
Yeah, that ship is sailed. Let's go get you that iPhone. Here we go. Come on.
It's your last chance to trade in any iPhone for a new iPhone 15 Pro on us, only on Verizon.
Ahí está. Tienes chile, ¿no?